everyone, Lady Luna Fox here, doing something I never thought I would do. Um, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and maybe send this as well over to a podcast and start doing that for you guys. What a lot of you don't know about me is that I have anxiety. Not as bad as I used to, but it's still there. So this segment is going to be about anxiety and cosplay and how it affected me. And if it helps you, great. If not, I don't know, maybe you'll still enjoy it, or I'm not sure. Still can't believe I'm doing this. Okay. So I've never actually gone and been diagnosed with anxiety, but I would have severe breakdowns and panic attacks, and I always felt like I was being judged by everybody around me. Like when you're out to eat, okay, and you hear these people behind you laughing and talking and you can't quite hear what they're saying, I'm the type of person that automatically assumed they're laughing about me. They're talking about me and they're judging me. That's how I felt. So I grew up with that, and I also grew up with depression. For the most part, I am over that. I still have my rough days. It's not something that just magically disappears, unfortunately. So it's still there, and at times I will still have my really low points, and it really sucks when those hit, because then I relive everything. I relive my down points in life, and I automatically remember everything I've ever hated about myself. It's like that feeling comes back. But it took years and years for me to get over this, and it took support from my husband and a few very, very close friends. In school, I'd had teachers that would, well, one teacher in particular that would catch me in the hallways crying, and I would spend the day with him because it was the day of a presentation and I couldn't do it. Yes, these were my peers, but I couldn't handle it. You're standing in front of them and they're staring directly at you. They're listening to everything you say. The teacher is grading you, which really, the teacher aspect wasn't my problem. It was everybody else. And it also didn't help that I was bullied. So some of those classmates were probably some of the bullies or friends of the bullies. There's also a lot of other issues personally that play a huge part in this, but that's a little deeper than I want to go. So I'm just going to leave that in the past. We all have that part that we don't want to share because it's too personal. It's a wound we don't want to open. Moving on, in 2016, I attended my very first Comic-Con in cosplay. We were about, I don't know, probably about 20 minutes away from the convention, so we're still in the car. And I had a smaller panic attack. I could feel it building up, and I was shaking. And then we pulled into the parking spot at the con, and that's when it hit. I was in tears. I was convinced, oh my gosh, I'm going to go in this place, and these people are going to stare at me, and they're going to judge me, and they're going to realize I look like trash, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Now, keep in mind, this was my first con, so I never sewed before then. I winged my cosplay, which is what I still do. I wing shit, but I just had this breakdown of, they're going to judge me, they're going to realize how shitty I look, they're going to be thinking the same thing I do, that I could have done a lot better, I shouldn't be here. And we sat in the car for a while, my husband and I, with him calming me down. And it took a while. So I wasn't completely calm. There were no more tears, thankfully, but I was still very shaky and very, very uncertain when we made it inside. And then we made it inside the building, and it felt like my heart just dropped. I felt weak and faint, and it just, yeah. But then, for those of you at a con, when you're in there and you're walking around, the longer you're there, the less uncertain you feel. Everything's okay. It's a different atmosphere. So the longer I spent walking around the convention, talking to other cosplayers, taking pictures myself, having pictures taken of me, which shook me up a little bit, because I was like, oh my gosh, these people want photos of me? Really? But I did it, and the longer I did that, the calmer I felt. And I was just fine up until I went into the celebrity guest part. That's when I had my, I want to say, third panic attack. There was a voice actor there that year that I very much so admired. We don't want to butcher his name. He's the voice of Edward Elric and Tamaki Sao. He wasn't there yet, so we were all just standing in line. That was fine, despite the fact I was already fighting back a panic attack. I was already shaking, my breath was catching, and I could feel the tears start to build. I didn't want to cry because I was in line, and I didn't want all these people to have another reason to judge me. Which, that's what was going on in my mind, was people were going to judge me. Probably not true, being a cosplayer now and being more into it. I know it's not true, but when you're fighting anxiety, that's just, for me, that's what was in my mind. If that makes sense. So, I'm standing in line, fighting back this panic attack, telling myself mentally, it's okay, everything's gonna be fine. And then as well, telling myself, oh, you're a pathetic loser for going to burst into tears in public. So I'm telling myself that, as well as, oh, it's okay, everything's gonna be okay. Which probably didn't help. I had this positive voice and this negative voice, this angel and devil, if you will. And then all of a sudden he came out, and it slipped my mind that it was enough of a, oh my gosh, there he is, that this panic attack just momentarily paused. And he came out, and he was on his way to his table, and he was greeting people, his fans, as he did so. It was funny because I was one of the few in his lines that was dressed up, and so I think I kind of surprised him because he paused mid-greet. It just looked at me and said, hi. I'm like, hi. And looked right back at the floor, and he continued greeting his fans and making his way into his table. He was super friendly. So we're waiting our turn in line, and we were paying his assistant, saying which picture I wanted signed. And the assistant, while my husband was paying, said, oh, you can go over and talk to him while we, do this. And I didn't even say anything. I just shook my head no, and nearly ran off. But the assistant teased me and said, oh, we have a shy one here. And Vic, I guess, heard him because he's like, come over here. And I'm going, please, no. Please, just no. I don't, my husband's right here. I don't want to leave this, security pillar here, even though he's not that far. 2017, so the very next year, I started making more and more complex cosplays for Comic-Cons that I planned on attending that year. I also learned a new aspect of anxiety. I already know that I overthink things to such a degree that I can make the most simple task incredibly hard. I'm not kidding. I can make flicking a light switch on have 500 steps. I mean, it's just that's something that I do, and it gets me very frustrated in most cases, which then leads to a breakdown, which in college, in math, that happens to me. That affects every aspect of my life. Is I take this simple thing, I make it harder, and because I make it harder, I then get stuck, which leads to frustration, which leads to a breakdown. So it's, yeah. The two cosplays I was making, one required shopping around for certain clothes to match or edit, which when you're looking for certain things, it can get frustrating because you're looking for this very specific item, and you'll find things that are almost there but not quite. And it was starting to frustrate me because I'm like, it's just this. I just need this. And I'll admit, I was very close to giving up and saying, screw it, I'm never going to find this. Another thing that I learned was making armor. Before I even began, I was very intimidated by it. Looking around the internet for reference pictures wasn't bad, because you can find reference pictures fairly easily now. But when it came to actually start making it, I continued to put it off, scared out of my mind, because for me, this was a huge step. This was a lot more intricate in my mind than sewing or painting. It was something new, something to learn. And because I was learning, I wanted my husband to help me, but that added another fear because there was someone watching and helping me. I'm just not very good with that. Even though, it's my husband, I know he's not going to judge me. It's still there. I don't know how to explain it to you. So all this just started to pile up, and my fear skyrocketed. But I finally started it, and you know what? It wasn't that bad. I was actually having fun with it. But then we used a hot glue gun to mold it into shape, and that's when everything just fell apart. The pieces were coming off, the foam was melting. At first I was like, you know what, it's okay. This is just a learning curve. It's fine. But that changed from, oh, everything's okay, to crying and saying I was gonna give up and never continue, and it's just, yeah. Has any of you that struggle with anxiety know that was an immediate solved problem. You nitpick everything, trying to say that giving up is the right choice. Somebody close to you can be arguing with you, no, it's not the right choice, but if you have anxiety, you're like, no, this is the only thing I can do is give up. This is what will make everything okay. Also, in that year, I started streaming on Twitch, and I think that's one of the things that really helped me. The community, especially in mine, I'm not sure about everybody else's, but I'm sure it's the truth there as well. They're very helpful, and they're a lot of fun. I will build my cosplays on there, and I think because I'm talking to my viewers, that frustration doesn't come as much. They've watched me fight cosplays, and instead of screaming and throwing it across the room, I laugh at myself, and I'm just like, yep, I don't know what I'm doing. It melted. I broke this line of beads, which I did this year, actually. I'm working on a new cosplay, and I was working on the very last strand of beads for this necklace, and the entire thing snapped, and I had to start over. Back then, I would have bawled my eyes out, and literally probably shoved it in a corner and never looked at it again. Instead, I just cut a new wire, and we kept going. It's quite a difference.